We're back as we always are, talking to people who are doing cool things. They have cool stories. And today on The Pulse, multiple TV shows, movies, Emmy nominations, occasional controversy, books, right? You've written a book. Sarah Silverman joins us. How are you?
Hi, I'm Will. How are you?
I'm good. When I said occasional controversy, even you went, yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, it happens, right? If they're not talking about you, that's a problem.
Right.
Take us back. How'd you get into this? Get started with the whole career? Let's go way back.
Well, I'll go really far back because I was one of those 3-year-olds who had a dad who thought it was hilarious to teach his toddler swears. And when I would say them, in the middle of the supermarket, I would get this wild approval from grown-ups, like despite themselves. And I think I became addicted to shock value, I think, and I loved being funny. I loved making people laugh. It made it made like my arms itch with glee. And so I always wanted to be a comedian. I mean, really since I was little. Moved to New York when I was 18 and started working at a comedy club, passing out flyers. Did that 10 hours a day for 2 years. And it got me some stage time, and I just went from there, on and on and on, little triumphs.
Now, as you kind of went along that path, big successes also. And you Google you hear a lot of your stories. We'll get to that because there's a whole rabbit hole when you Google you to do research.
Yeah, boy.
but at some point you end up on Saturday Night Live.
I moved to New York to go to NYU from New Hampshire, where I grew up. And I was a drama student, and it was real expensive. And I was passing out flyers for a comedy club from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. and trying to stay awake during classes. And my dad actually said, if you drop out of school, I'll pay your rent, like as if it's your sophomore, junior, senior year for the next 3 years.
Okay.
And I said, okay. And I still stole some classes because it's not like they take attendance or giant lectures and stuff. And I didn't need a degree. I just wanted information and to learn stuff. And by the time I would have graduated, by the time I was 22, I was writing for Saturday Night Live and a feature performer, which is very impressive. But I got fired after a year, if that's any consolation.
You got fired in a year from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But everything that I've read, you credit that with making you tougher? Like it wasn't a huge defeat for you.
It was a huge defeat for me, but overcoming it, it's like a broken bone. It heals stronger, I mean, I had like a cluster of firings, like Saturday Night Live. I got fired from like a sitcom I was hired for. And then I got like a real complex about it. Like I would like make sure I still had the job before I'd go in the morning and stuff because I was like used to getting fired. But somehow I outgrew that and ended up keeping jobs. There's a moment when you're fired from Saturday Night Live where you're like, am I still in show business? So, I had to go back to the basics. I went back to stand-up, which is always my constant.
You got tougher from Saturday Night Live. Were you always this person? Like I've seen a lot of your stand-up going back, but you're very comfortable now taking on the tough and the tough topics. And, over the years, I've seen some of the things people were like, has that always been you?
I think, no, I've changed a lot over time. I mean, hopefully we all do. And, as the world changes around me, as I grow and change, get older, or, learn more about myself and others in the world, my comedy changes. I mean, I think it's crazy when it doesn't, when you just like stick with one thing. And I get it though, I mean, comics who maybe get famous from their first special or their first whatever. And it's very scary to move on from that persona or that vibe or that kind of comedy. And but if you don't, I feel like you become a caricature of yourself, and it's a missed opportunity. You just have to stick with what you find funny now, you know. And I still find a lot of the same stuff funny because I'm basically a 10-year-old. But my world, and you know, it's like when you change your perspective even just 1 degree, the whole world looks different, you know. So your comedy should reflect that, I think. I always think of Chris Rock because, you know, I would watch him and he would, you know, do a special and be just so genius and then just go back to zero. You know, a lot of comics still stick with like the comedy that works and the jokes that work and repeat themselves a lot. And of course, like I honed stuff over a long time, but once you record it, it's just you gotta kiss it goodbye and be willing to bomb.
And you have much more to lose. Like once you get to that level of success that you're talking about, like it's easy fumbling through stuff when you're like, I'm just trying to learn. Once you've achieved that level of success, and people are like, that's not what I expected.
I just think it's important to just keep moving, trying new stuff. And so, you know, like my boyfriend is also a comic and he'll see me bomb, you know, sometimes. And he, you know, I shake it off and he's like, God, you're so good at that. You're so good at like it not ruining, you know, your week.
That's a fly on the wall conversation when your boyfriend is like, yo, you were awful, but you're good at shaking it off. Like, congrats.
But it's true. You have to risk bombing and doing bad and or going over the line or not going far enough or missing, not, you know, I mean, it's a lot of trial and error and you have to be able to be willing to go back and do that again, you know, but in Philly, I'll be very well honed, I promise.
We are sure. We have no doubts at all. Next on The Pulse, it's crazy to think about it, but when's the last time you heard a comedian just say, I'm sorry?
I find it's just so curious what you think you lose from being sorry about something. For me, it's so freeing. It really doesn't have to be so scary.